Initially, we don't even realize that our nervous system and our physical body is in that state. It's an unconscious response. It's not controlled by our consciousness and our mind. But the first step to getting out of nervous system disharmony is the awareness. And then to continue this work from there, we need to regulate the body and the nervous system through practices, ones that tell our body that we are safe. Your body changes state before you even have a chance to change your minds. This all happens in the background. So let's meet your nervous system with love. Welcome to Monday Movements. I'm going to be breaking down the psychosomatics behind an entire system, behind the nervous system. We're going to be focusing on the autonomic nervous system and our states of nervous system response when it comes to survival and safety responses. We're going to be looking at 3 key links, 3 general links that are connected to any nervous system issues that are presenting in the body, whether that be physiological nervous system issues such as nerve damage, numbness, or whether it be more psychosomatic presenting issues such as anxiety, panic attacks, for example, depression. And we're not going to be looking at it through the lens of medical terms or scientific terms. We're going to be looking at the other components to these presentations. So the metaphysical components, such as our emotional, our energetic, and our mental components that can be related to nervous system issues presenting in the body. So the 3 key links, we have the adrenaline loop, we have the shutdown loop, and we have our last one tying it all together, survival over safety. We're going to break down all 3 key links so you can see how they flow together cohesively and really form the picture of what could be going on for you on a metaphysical level when you have nervous system issues presenting. Starting with key link number 1, the adrenaline loop. In essence, we're talking about adrenaline junkies, and not necessarily the kind that goes skydiving or cliff jumping every weekend. Perhaps they're not even the kind that realizes that they're addicted to adrenaline. The autonomic nervous system, the ANS, in every human moves between 3 states. Rather than the 2 we typically know, there are actually 3 states. I'm going to break those down. We have our sympathetic state, which contains within it this mobilizing energy to fight, flight, perform. And then we have the parasympathetic ventral state, which is our more neutral state of rest and digest, safety and calm. And lastly, we have the parasympathetic dorsal state, which is more of our kind of immobilizing energy, where we freeze, collapse, burn out. And if we notice behaviors of hyperproductivity, perfectionism, people-pleasing, or discomfort when we're stopping, discomfort in the silences, the breaks, in the pause, or even if we have tight shoulders, jaw and neck, these are all signs that we are in a state of sympathetic overdrive. In other words, the adrenaline junkie loop. So this is when you're in that sympathetic loop. That's what the adrenaline junkie loop is. Which brings me to the shutdown loop, the next key link. Because conversely, you can also have behaviors where we are socially withdrawn, where we shut down, where we feel low or depressed, where we have mental fog and confusion, where limbs feel exhausted, or we have a state of malaise, in other words, burnout. Reaching our level 0. I have a whole masterclass on that. And if we feel all of these things, then this is a sign that we are in the parasympathetic dorsal state, parasympathetic overdrive, which is the shutdown loop. And it's common to experience the adrenaline loop and the shutdown loop in cycles, where we move through overperforming, too much output, perfectionism, people-pleasing, until we reach a state of burnout, a shutdown loop, and exhaustion. And this constant cycle of adrenaline loop into shutdown loop, into adrenaline loop, into shutdown loop is what we call the nervous system survival cycle. When the body is rarely in a parasympathetic dorsal state, the neutral state where we feel calm, rested, and self-assured, then it will feel uncomfortable when we move into this state. Often feeling withdrawn, dissociated, and foreign from being in that state of comfort and space and silence and relaxation. The silence can be deafening, right? And so when we feel uncomfortable about that, or it feels foreign and we don't know what to do about it, like you get bored, for example, then we withdraw from it, we dissociate, we numb. And this is where we move into that shutdown loop again. So the body's kind of bypassing that restful state, that calm, safe state, because it's so used to being in the other two states, the adrenaline loop and the shutdown loop. But what's trained us into this cycle of nervous system survival, these two loops? What's trained us into that? Because it becomes such a natural response, an unconscious response from the nervous system, from the body. We don't even realize it's happening. And this is where the third key link comes into play. What causes it? This is where survival over safety comes in. The truth is, we can begin to favor a state of survival over the state of safety because it's a state where we can be alert, predict what's going to happen, feel self-assured in knowing what's coming. Usually what causes this unconscious bodily desire to be in a survival state of, adrenaline and shutdown is fear of the unknown. The unknown is not safe to us. So we choose survival because it means we can brace for impact when something unknown comes flying at us. Or conversely, if we see something familiar flying our way, we can better prepare for these situations. We can prepare for lesser impact because we have experienced it before in the past. But here's the thing though, which I've already touched on a little bit before. It's not a conscious state to intentionally choose. Initially, we don't even realize that our nervous system and our physical body is in that state. It's an unconscious response. It's not controlled by our consciousness and our mind and what we are intentionally choosing with awareness. No, this loop has been going on for so long, it's become a default response, as I've mentioned before. But the first step to getting out of nervous system disharmony, to getting out of that survival cycle, is the awareness. The conscious awareness of the mental body that the loop and the cycle is even there, that you're in a state of survival. That's the first step, is being aware of it, bringing it into consciousness. And then to continue this work from there, from that first step of awareness, we need to regulate the body and the nervous system through practices like somatic embodiment practices, ones that tell our body that we are safe. And I'll be taking you through this in the next episode of the Monday Movement series. I trained a family member through this exact practice that I'm going to be sharing next week in the Monday Movement series after he experienced a spinal shock near-death accident. But within 2 months, just 2 months, you could already see a difference. Within 2 months, he was able to rewrite his nervous system's response, teach it that the survival response that was going on was habitual from the accident. Your body doesn't know when it's going to happen again, right? So it's a protective mechanism that your body does unconsciously. He was able to shift into the parasympathetic ventral state to tell his body that he is safe again whenever he noticed that survival response occurring. So this topic of the nervous system, it isn't just dear to my heart because it's what I do for a living. It's what I did throughout clinical practice and it's what I studied for 4 years in chiro. It's not just because of my professional experience. It's also dear to my heart because I've experienced this in my personal life with family members as well, and I have seen real results with it. So I'm going to be taking you through the somatic practice, the very one that I taught my family member that I've taken through other clients in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to leave you with 3 thoughts that you can kind of percolate and call to question. Number 1, what signals from my body are telling me that I'm in overdrive or I'm in shutdown? In other words, I'm in survival mode. What signals of my body are telling me that I am in overdrive or shutdown? Number 2, what are the glimmers? What are those glimmers, those tiny cues of goodness, of wholesomeness that bring me back to a sense of safety? And number 3, what is one small action that I can take right now that's going to bring me back to a safer state, but also at the same time matches my reality, my current state that I'm in? Because we don't want it to be such a huge step that it seems unachievable, So what is one small action I can take right now that matches my current reality, but feels safer, makes me feel safe? I'm going to leave you with those 3 questions. I'll see you in next week's episode where we're going to go over a somatic practice for the nervous system. I'll see you then.